and welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. And we're going to be reviewing the four quarterfinals that happened at the Rugby World Cup this weekend. And now we have only four teams left in the competition. Argentina, New Zealand, England, and South Africa have earned their way to the semi-finals after probably one of the best quarterfinal weekends that we've had in history. I've got Cooks, I've got Sean with me today. We're going to be going through all of these games in detail. Of course, starting with the Springboks 29-28 win over the host France in the last quarterfinal on Sunday. Sean, I think let's just get the ball rolling from the off. Yesterday's game, there's so many things to break down into it. But I think as you probably called it, actually, Sean, the Springboks were a lot more efficient than they have been even in the last, 4 years, essentially. And when they got their chances, they took it. And that was the difference in the game.
Hello, everybody. Yes. Oh, wow. I'm buzzing. I've been trying really hard to watch games back before the pods, and I haven't been able to, but I made sure to watch this one again today. It was as stressful as live. But yes, we were more efficient. We were more expansive than I thought. I mean, we all kind of figured we'd be expansive. We were a little bit more expansive. We were striking really hard, but the only word is we were efficient. We were hitting them hard. We were taking our opportunities. It was glorious, but it was dovetailed by the fact that France were doing exactly the same. So it was two amazing teams executing really well, just backwards and forwards. It was, wow, it was stunning.
You can't fault either teams, and you can't really fault any of the players that played on Saturday. All 40 or 45, I don't think Luku came on, but all of them played to a very high level. Cooks, we're going to go into like all the talking points, all the individual performances and everything. But yeah, I mean, you had had the privilege of watching the game, obviously doing some studio work for Supersport. How are the nerves and the vibes there?
Oh man, it was it was incredible. It was. I mean, obviously, I think getting to studio. I think our call time was just obviously I got there about halftime of the England game, so sort of was still fine. And then like, I remember when the game ended, there was a bit of the nerves sort of hit. I remember JV Peterson basically couldn't sit down for about 2 hours. Walking up and down, and then I think there was just like the sort of tension, like everyone was just like there was no one was like calm. It was like funny. I think Odin Lugano was the most calm one. He was just like taking it in his stride. But I mean, like I don't think anything phases him. He's always been like a very calm natured person. But I think it was a lot of nerves. I think obviously the game, and it does help that there's no audio in the camera shots that it shows in the change room then, because it won't be as family friendly the TV with the.
I was lip reading, mate.
And then
it was a lot happening. I was picking it up.
No, there was a lot going on. I think it was awesome though. I think it was like the game was so stressful, just so stressful, but it was an incredible game. And then just like, oh man, obviously afterwards getting the win. No, but it was such a good day out, such a great day. Well, it sort of was the England Fiji game at the end. There's also that sort of got us riled up properly. Nothing like an England win to rile up a few South Africans. So so it was it was proper. It was a flipping incredible experience.
Okay, I think let's get into the nuts and bolts of this game. So South Africa won a game in which they had less possession and territory for pretty much the whole game. 60% territory, 60% possession, 63% territory from the French. The French beat 43 defenders to the Boks 12, which meant that the Boks had a 73% tackle success rate, with the French having 87. Clean breaks, 13 for the French to 6. Gain line carries, they doubled. Passes, they doubled. 13 offloads to 2. Boks had 8 turnovers. I think some big impact from especially Kwagga Smith coming off the bench. And I think a big key statistic, and that we're going to talk about the Cheslin Kobe blocked conversion, but goal kicking was 80% for the Boks and 71% for France, which was obviously a big strength of theirs. And the French scrum was struggling in comparison, with only 50% scrum success rate. Also, big shout out to both teams. Only 6 penalties each in the whole game, which is ridiculous. And I think goes
it didn't
to
feel
the
like that.
Yeah, I think just goes to the management of Ben O'Keefe. I think he allowed a contest as far as possible without over penalizing. I mean, yeah, we'll obviously talk about Mature now on the other side of this. But yeah, Sean, this wasn't always the cleanest victory for the Springboks. I think they had to do it the hard way. France really came out all guns blazing. But ultimately, I think what won them the game was the ability to strike. I think let's talk about counterattack first. Their ability to strike. 3 of those 4 tries that the Springboks scored were all from basically transition plays, either from kicks or from balls or bobbling. And yeah, we've seen this a few times, but yeah, I think the Springboks have really gone from just relying on almost like on Kobe or Arendse or whoever one of those magic people on the wing are to create opportunities to the whole team being able to be built around that. Like, I mean, from Kriel's grabber, from how Allende created the try for Arendse, like there's so much more dynamism with the Bucks when they have transition. They were lethal in the counterattack.
Incredible. And we are feeding off that. That has become an attacking strategy for us, and something that they're definitely working on. And it all falls off the defense. Now, I'm sure we're going to chat about the defense in a bit, but the defense was stressing me out. I almost felt like our scrambled defense needed scrambled defense, which was making me very, very nervous. But on the back end of that, we have structured our play in such a way, even in 2019, it was the case with so much kicking, we were waiting for other teams to make mistakes. But we have taken that counterattack and we've taken that turnover ball to a new level. And it's amazing. And everyone from 9 to 15, doesn't matter where they are in the park, they are very much telepathically connected and they know what's going on. They also are extremely in tune with everyone else's abilities, like the speed and everything. It was amazing. We put so much pressure on them that they made mistakes, but we made those mistakes count in our favor more often than not. And I don't think that they've been punished like that for errors in a long, long time.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Like, France was playing a pretty high-level game, and they just couldn't get that second score just to put some distance between them and the box, which obviously mattered in those last 30-odd minutes. Cooks, let's talk about the defense. I mean, it's not often you say a team that had like 75% tackling and conceded 4 tries defended well, but that's what the box did. And there were some massive interventions, from etzebeth, from Pieter-Steph du Toit, from Kwagga Smith. Like, you go through the whole team. There's been Bongi Mbonambi was effectively defending at center most times. And as much as Fiku and Dante were trying to challenge, they couldn't get around him. Kriel was just a nuisance. Anytime Jalibert got the ball, like, we know that the Springbok defense, gives space off wide, will give away a few line breaks, will drop off a few tackles. So the defenders' beaten stats can be a bit high, but we know that the strength is that scramble, and they were able to just get themselves and to stop some opportunities, because France had opportunities. They easily could have, scored maybe another 3 tries.
Yeah, totally. You summed it up nicely. I think scramble defense was showed why our scramble the box showed yesterday why our scramble defense is the best in the world, and it's incredible how quickly we're able to turn line breaks, and how quickly where team makes a line break, how quickly the box can adjust and sort of gain sort of dominance again of the gain line. I think it's something that the box have done very, very well. We're very good at stopping, at stopping teams that 1 or 2 phases after a line break. I think it's something that we do very well. And I think yesterday, I think the best part of our defenses was we made key stops at crucial times. I think overall, I think knowing Jacques is probably a big stickler for his defense. I thought France was able to, at times, better than most sides I've seen with the box in this run, was able to stop the line speed. Those good line speed at times, but not as quickly as it was, let's say, for example, like in the Ireland game. I think France's ability to sort of just the gain line dominance that France got, not many sides can do this. Pretty much, I thought France was able to get over the gain line and sort of dictate terms in the gain line. So the Springboks always felt like they're going backwards and backwards. But one thing the box did was always crucial stops and crucial interventions at the perfect time, crucial turnovers, crucial knock-ons and forcing France into mistakes on attack. And I think that's what we did well. I think and it was a game where we felt, especially defensively, we had to scramble. Like France, especially in the first half, was very clinical. I think both sides were very clinical, especially in the first half, where it felt like with France, whenever they got into the red zone, they scored. And then in the second half, especially when the Boks weren't playing, when we were at our best, it was about a 15-minute period where I think after the subs came on, where France was just chasing after the game, and they needed that second score, especially when they went 6 points clear, and you felt like, oh, if France get the second score, this could be the game. And they were able to make such crucial stops. Kwaka Smith was an absolutely unbelievable Oxford scrum penalty, and that sort of changed the tide in the game. And I think defensively, I think there was such massive key moments we did well. I mean, Eben etzebeth basically almost single-handedly kept the Springboks in the game the first half with that unbelievable defensive stop, and then straight after that goes and gets the kick chase that is the first try away, and then it was an unbelievable effort from the Boks defensively, especially with our scramble. It was beautiful to watch, and I think France can take a lot of credit in terms of just there's not many sides that can do the Springbok defense, and in terms of just finding ways to slow down the line speed as it was, but again, the Springboks, that scramble was incredible, and I just thought that it was a day of big plays. Even Faf at the end, they ripped there, just big plays on defense at crucial times, and that's why they're in the semi-final.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between the two teams. The Springboks, all the big players went on their side, essentially. The etzebeth try stop, the Kobe charge down conversion, Ramos missed his long-range kick, Pollard got his, some of the try opportunities as well. The Springboks obviously scoring at least 3 tries from like transition plays that were just absolutely just breathtaking. The Boks going for the quick tap instead of the 3 points. Like, they really, I mean, the difference between the two teams is probably the one took all the big moments, even if they didn't have all the possession and territory. They, I think, only essentially dictated the game for maybe that last quarter when most of the game was being played in the French half. Sean?
Yeah, on the defense, our scramble was good, but one thing that I was a little bit frustrated with was I thought Jesse Kriel shifting up into that passing lane was outstanding. But the downside of that is we seem to be leaking a little bit when the players stepped in. And that's normally like where we're strongest. That's why we have that umbrella defense, is to force people back into the traffic. And that was the good and the bad of it. And the other side, and it's an unpopular opinion, like, I don't think Dupont had a great game. Dupont was good, and he was not his 100% self. And that was purely because of how the Springboks targeted him. Because, like, he was probably wrapped up 2 or 3 times. He was forced into one shitty kick, and there were 2 tries that we scored that were directly off him making a mistake. Granted, the one was from Damian Allende's kick where Dupont was man alone and he was pinged for holding on. But that was the side that I thought. That's why I thought Reinach started. I thought Reinach started because he's a good 9, but I thought his kicking was off. But I thought he started because he's the hardest, most robust 9 that we have to go up against Dupont and just smother him. And we got in his face. And it shows how good he is as a player, that he still had incredible moments with try assists, and he was at the center of everything, the French playoff for 9. But I really thought that our defense was centered around really pestering him, and he made crucial errors, and errors that cost France. Yes, he scored tries should I say was at the heart of tries, but I thought our defense there was outstanding.
Yo, I don't know. I think that's, I hear why you say it's unpopular, because I thought, all things considered, Dupont had a very good game. But I hear your point. I mean, the Boks also forced him to a few errors because of the relentlessness of the attack around the fringes. So Dupont never had fewer of those like runs that he has just from around rucks. But I think also just his ability to get away from it. Going quickly off France, I think their mistake, they didn't make too many of them on Sunday, but their mistake was, I think they tried to go wide too quickly, a few too many times in the second half. Whereas what they were doing well in the first half was going a bit more direct and going and playing off 9 and trying to suck in the defenders, and then, hitting the trigger when the space was there. I think they tried to go too wide, and that's where a few errors happened. But yeah, I think it's DuPont having the game that he did is, in his standards, a quieter game. But yeah, I thought he was constantly that one person that every time he got the ball, it was like there's a lot of red alerts and worries for all the teams.
Mm.
Do you want to say something, Sean?
No. I agree with you. Like, he had a good game and he was at the heart of everything. But we absolutely made his night as shit as possible. And the facts are that we forced 12 points, maybe 14. I think it was, we forced 12 points off 2 of his errors. Like, like I said, unpopular, but that's what the way it happened, man.
Let's go into individual performances. We'll start obviously on the Springboks side. So, man of the match was Bongi Mbonambi. I think we talked about him a little bit there, about his interventions defensively. Lineouts were, I think, 100% while he was playing as well. Scrums obviously were great, so like you can see why that was. But Cooks, I think it's a day where there's at least 10 or so candidates that would have had a good shot for man of the match. I'll allow you to pick out 1 or 2 if you want. There should be enough for Sean to also pick up on them once you're done.
Oh, jeez. I mean, I think you tweeted it is basically choose. It's like there's a whole bunch of excellent guys and the excellent players and the guys who had like just good games, and that's how high the standard was. But for me, I want to just highlight Eben Etzebeth. I'll leave Jesse Kriel to Sean. I mean, Jesse Kriel was fantastic, but I just want to highlight Eben Etzebeth. Yesterday was colossal. I mean, there is many. He's got a long list of incredible games, and when in Eben Etzebeth incredible game is like it's unreal the things he can do on the field. And yesterday he was at his all-time best, big hits. He's turning into one of the best kick chasers in the world now, barring any position, because he's such a menace in the air. Busy at more time, carrying, just sort of granted report in the game. I think even including the yellow card. Besides including the card, that's probably the only mistake he made. And then, but you look at just the impact that he's able to have. I mean, it's incredible what he did yesterday, and I just thought even the game did change again when he came back on. That was massive. It was just the tempo lifted as well, and the grind, sort of the grind, that extra grind that he provides. I thought he was massive. He was colossal. I mean, he's providing an outstanding case that when all is said and done, that he might end up being the greatest Springbok. You look at the numbers in terms of most caps, and he's got a World Cup on Operation Irish Tour. I think the only thing probably missing in his ranks, if you're considering him like with a Brian Abana or someone like that, or is a World Player of the Year. But I mean, he's been nominated a few times. It's just incredible. And I thought yesterday it was one of those performances that we needed. I think we haven't had a Eben Etzebeth masterclass this year, and he saved it for a flipping good time, because shit, man, it was just absolutely colossal to watch, and it just reminded me why he's one of the best players who've ever won the green and gold.
The other player who had a masterclass, and like, it's when Eben has a good game, the Springboks do well, and the same goes for Cheslin Kobe. He was outstanding. Every single time he got the ball, he would beat a man, he would make the advantage line, he would do something. He was taking gaps. I was trying to watch him on slow-mo to try and figure out how exactly he managed to get through that space. It was incredible. But yeah, like on Jesse Kriel and Damian, I thought they were both excellent. They apparently, in inverted commas, never pass or never this or never that. They did it all on Saturday. And like, I'm pretty sure the listeners are tired of hearing me talk about it, or us. But yeah, if you want to hear about Kriel and Allende, you can probably listen to any one of our previous podcasts after a Springbok Test match. They were outstanding. And I'm telling you now, they are the most feared centre pairing to face in World Rugby right now. Nobody wants to run at them. Nobody wants to do anything against them because they'll hit you and I'll hit you hard. The other person who I thought kind of flew under the radar, but like as you mentioned, like everyone had a good game and some had excellent games. He was borderline excellent, but Damian Willemse, and I've always wanted Willie to play, and especially when Manny there. But then I realized, like, with France kicking deep so often, Willemse is the guy to run it back. And he was there all day. He was safe as houses. Like, he didn't really stand out a lot, which is great for a fullback sometimes. Like, he was never out of place. He was always in the mix. And then the last person I want to mention, I mean, Cooks, you stuck on Eben. I thought I'd cover everyone else, but Franco Mostert was just a beast. His numbers don't really do it justice. Like, his tackle numbers are good, but everything else is really quiet. But he was just a wall, man. He was just flattening people.
Yeah, I mean, Franco, again, like, Franco Smith, he's one of those guys that just basically, he's been since probably since going back to 5, he's been very, very good. Back to good old Franco Smith. I mean, the guy rolls out of bed and gives you about 14 tackles in about 50 minutes. I mean, that's just basically what he does. But I mean,
people asked for him to be dropped. Do you remember?
Yeah,
a couple months ago,
saying he's passed, and I always felt like it's just time for him to go. He just to go back to lock. I mean, that was the answer. But like, no, I thought he was going to be Bongi. I thought Bongi put an incredible shift in that hooker. I mean, I can't remember when last he's played 80 minutes with the Springboks, or if he has before, but he put in an incredible hit at just hitting everything that moved. Kwaka Smith, I mean, he's the bomb in the bomb squad. I think he's been incredible. Every time he comes on, he makes a massive impact. It was a massive steal that he came in and did. I know that there's a steal that French fans say he had his hand on the ground. It's 50-50, that call. I think it's one of those ones.
It was on the ground. There's nothing 50-50 about it. His hand was on the ground.
No, but the thing is though, but the law is that if you can hand on the ground and bring up immediately unless you don't put it, you have leeway to be able to put your hand on the ground and put it back up immediately. I think if you go past the ball, that's the rule. So some referees allow you to sort of put your hand on the ground as long as you can get it back up as soon as possible. Like, for example, like, don't give some of the Courtney Laws ones that were given that Matthew Reynolds just didn't feel like blowing. But
I think Reynolds still saying leave it to Courtney Laws right now today.
No, but no, 100%. But but I mean, Kwaka was incredible. I think everyone played a role. Pollard he came on, gave that massive penalty from the halfway line. Everyone played a role. Faf. You know, funny. People were obviously were attacking Faf. Like, people I saw scrolling through Twitter. People were like, oh, I can't believe Faf kick the ball away the minute to go. I'm like, well, I was like, you can't expect the ball. You want them to do pick and goes for a minute. Like, whenever a team does a pick and go thing for like a minute, I'm like, they're going to get blown for sealing off. It happens so many times. I'm like, just kick. Like,
and we were static as well. We weren't even going forward.
100%. I was like, well, if I'm the Springboks, if the minute to go, I'm rather asking France to come from 80 meters out than trying to make sure I don't make a mistake. And then now that they are 40 meters in or 50 meters in, they can go for the corner.
Cooks, you know what? I was all for that. But you know what stressed me out the most was that kick was a very shallow contestable.
Yeah, that was what stressed me out.
I was like, could you maybe put 50 more meters on that, please? Like, they can mark it if they want. I don't really care. And they won't mark it because they need to go. That's a part.
Why? Yeah, that's a part also that they gave. Like, why is it back to contestable? Because we were sitting there, like, because once we saw them setting up on the 70th minute, we're like screaming, like, kick the ball. Like, you're not just gonna pick and go over 2 minutes. Like, something is bound to happen. Someone's going to seal off. But I thought, it's such an incredible shift from everyone. But flip, man, like, it's one of those few games where everyone just steps up and everyone was fantastic and just made for an incredible game of rugby.
Yeah, I think you guys even left me a few players I can still talk about, even though we've gone through most of the team. I thought Peter Steph du Toit had a fantastic game. looked like sort of shades of like 2019 when he was the best player in the world. I think
when he
that's something
dummies, when he dummies in the back line, it's on, eh?
Yeah, it was his pass that went for that Kobe try, right? Because I think he was the
Kriel.
first or second player to that passed to Jesse Kriel. But he had some big defensive stops. I think he was the one that's went from the scrum to stop Pinot in that first attack that started from about 80 meters out. So he ran from the scrum and covered about 40, 50 meters, which was ridiculous. I think Lebok and Reinach managed the game really well from 9 and 10. It's good that I think the Springboks have Reinach and de Klerk, both of them have their iffy moments. I think at 9, de Klerk more just because he's absolutely mental, and Reinach maybe just an execution thing. But I think they stuck to the game plan well. They clearly focused on that left wing of France, which is why those aerial bombs from Lebok were coming there. And geez, Lebok had a great game, especially playing a more, let's call it a more Pollard type of execution of obviously putting those cross-field bombs up. And obviously 2 of them one of his led to a try and one of Reinach's, which was probably, the reason why it was a bit shallow, but it also led to a try. And they clearly executed that game plan really well. So I thought Lebok managed the game well. In the second half, when Pollard came on, obviously he did what he needed to do with that big penalty near the end. And then, I think we've talked about the wings. What I was going to say about Willemse as well very quickly was his kicking from the 22 was almost spotless, or faultless, I should say. Like every time he kicked, because obviously we know how long the French kick, every time he kicked back, it was with interest. He kicked to touch most times. And he did really well with that, because the whole trick with the French kicking game is, if you get to a long kicking game with them, they will finally get that opportunity when your defense is unstructured. So you either kick to touch like Willemse did, or you run like Kobe did. So Kobe, I think, got a few meters also just from returning kicks, and that worked out quite well for the Springboks. And then, I think we've said, I think, a lot about Kwagga Smith and his impact on the bench. And I think the coaches also have to be applauded. I think I was definitely on their butts about that Island game and the lack of experience that the Springboks had at the end of this game. But this game, they made sure that, a little bit of luck happened as well with maybe some of the HIAs, but they had Vermeulen and or Peter Steff on the field. Mbonambi finished about 70-odd minutes. Etzebeth was on the field except for his sin bin. Obviously, the 3 backline players, Pollard, de Klerk and Leroux came on. Kobe obviously has a big bag of caps himself. The centers were all experienced. So that made sure that I think we had the players for those big moments, which we maybe didn't in the Island game. So it'll be interesting to see I don't know when the team's going to be announced. Probably, I don't know if we're going to go to Friday or Tuesday. But I wouldn't mind if this is the team that sort of carries through to the final. Oh yeah, Dwayne Vermeulen, what a good game from him. You can see that the old warhorse maybe isn't as energetic as he was, but massive. He was massive in terms of he had a big steal, I think, in a big moment when the French were building momentum in the first half. He slowed a lot of ball down. He was good. He was obviously, we know how important he is as a leader and as a captain of the defense. And I'm very happy if Dwayne Vermeulen's on the field. I think that he's the sort of player that obviously does win us these big, tight matches. Cooks?
No, Tala, I wanted to say, especially, I'm so glad you brought up Moen Lebok, because I think people were expecting a different type of meal from Chef Marnie, where it was a meal of being clinical, because lots of people were coming to these festivities. As we sent out 1,000 invites the whole week, but so Chef Marnie was like, you know what, we're going to focus on being clinical this weekend. We're not going to, yes, there's 4 or 5 different meats and vegetarian options, halal options, but it was about getting them out, making sure everyone was fed. And he did that, Tyler, just being clinical, chances there, score a try. Chance here, score a try, crossfield bombs. So I think Lucanio also came with a secret spice that he left at home with those crossfield bombs. But I think Chef Marnie this week, I want people to think he's not the master chef we do know. It was a different type of meal. Sometimes you got to adapt, because we sent out an invitation, but the pots were not enough. So we had to sort of limit the sauces and the salads. But Chef Cheslin razzled and dazzled still. There's still a little bit of razzle, but Chef Marnie is a different type of chef. I like him. different sort of options. He's not just a one-trick pony, you know. So guys, wasn't panic, guys. There's still another feast this weekend. Chef Marnie still got us. There still will be 4 or 5 meats. Still a fantastic feast, but a different type of feast from this weekend from my chef.
Jeez, it made me hungry there. Chef Marnie came with that, Michelin star, nicely designed plate that doesn't fill you with any food, but it's so nicely sort of like technical and designed well instead of the feast that we're used to. But it's more than happy, and we'll get the 5-star Michelin rating for that.
100%.
So yeah, Marnie definitely cooked. Let's talk quickly about France, then we can go through some of the big moments in the game. Sean, I mean, there's not too much you can fault for that France did on Sunday. Set pieces went pretty well. They at least got parity in the collisions for most of the game. As we said, they created chances. They stretched the Bok defense for a lot of it. Scored 3 tries. I mean, that's not something that often happens to the Springboks. And they still lost. Yeah, it's just, there's not much. I think with Ireland, you can say that they left things out there and didn't maybe execute on certain things. With France, it's a different kind of heartbreaking loss because the opportunities were there. They just couldn't finish them.
Yeah, the thing is when they've got such great front football, excuse me, and they're working it so well, is they generally get penalties and they'll either take the 3 points or they'll kick to the corner. They've got a strong line out and drive and whatnot. We managed to strangle that a little bit. For them, it was weird. France, it was almost like the longer the game went on, the more the doubt settled in, because if we're very honest, the Springboks were good, but we were good when we got the ball in that turnover for those little moments, and we made it count. But there were a lot of that game where they were on top of us, where they were beating us, where they were making like 10, 20-meter breaks, and then they had front foot ball, and we just managed to scramble. And it started getting to them. And I mean, even Ramos, that 22 restarts at the end of the game, he sent it straight out. There was a little bit of a tide turner there, and a little bit before that. But I thought France managed their game well. I think their plan and everything that they needed to do and how they did it worked out well. They just didn't factor in for, honestly, the chaos that the Springboks brought, because we were chaotic on defense. It felt like we were scrambling all the time. And if we weren't scrambling, we had to scramble the scramble. And it was chaotic. And there were moments there where we got out of it. And I was like, how on earth did we get people back? Like, how have France not capitalized? Like, we were making... Tyler, you nailed it earlier on. You said there were a lot of big moments that the Springboks won. On defense, there were big moments that the Springboks won, like a last-ditch tackle, that Faf de Klerk ankle tap, the big hits by Mbonambi in midfield. It was crazy. I think it's going to be really hard for the French to look back at that and kind of pinpoint where they went wrong, besides the fact that they were just beaten by a chaotic and a deadly South Africa.
Shocky, I think for me, when France look back at it, I think there was a period where our subs sort of, that first 5 to 10 minutes that they came on, they sort of started off a little slow. We missed a few lineouts, and then there was a missed tackle straight from Sepis and Jalil went through. So there, I thought, and then obviously they got it up to about to a 6-point lead. I think there France had about 2 opportunities sort of to score a try and got themselves in positions. But again, like Tyler said, forcing the play to go wide too soon when maybe they needed one of those few pick and goes to maybe, if not, at least get a penalty to go 9 points clear or still set up. I think there was the frantic nature of the game. France also almost tried to make it a lot more frantic where at times they might have just needed to sort of slow things down a little bit and just be and focus on efficiency and execution, especially after they'd made the line break and 1 or 2 phases where they had to just 1 or 2 little pick and goes and not try and sort of force a try within 3 phases. And because I thought in the first half that's what they were able to do when they did create chances. They were a little bit more patient and more clinical, and in the second half they sort of almost had to be more frantic, almost like they felt like they had to score because they knew the Springboks would score we'll bounce back immediately. And I think that 10 minutes where our bench struggled a little bit, I think that's where France will look back and be like, man, we had opportunities at when we had a 6-point lead to bear this game. And obviously, I think there's certain big moments that happened that hurt them. The Ramos shank for touch, huge. The Ramos 22 dropout that goes out on the full, which is massive.
That was a Jalibert that kick to touch was wild. Losing ground.
The Jalibert one was wild, and then the Ramos kick.
What the hell was that?
That was.
I had to rewind. I was like, I looked away from the TV and I just saw, wait, why is the French line out in the 22? They just had a penalty. I literally had to rewind and just be like, how did he shank it so badly?
Absolutely crazy.
No, it was. It was.
Cooks, you're right. The panic set in. When the big thing for me when the bench came on, and you're 100% right, but Antoine Dupont waited that whole game for one thing, and that was for Faf de Klerk to come on, because the second Faf came on, he broke blind. It's like Faf and Pollard, that intensity of the game when they came on, they weren't ready for it. And Pollard missed 4 out of his 8 tackles. He missed a couple of big ones. It's that when Faf was getting into the game, when Pollard was getting into the game, where both of them were quite scratchy, where France should have scored. Like, in reality, they should have scored. But our scramble got us. And France had a 4-point lead, and they were deep in our 22. And I watched the game back this morning, as I mentioned, and I still, for the life of me, can't remember how we got out of that. But they were in our 22, and they were looking amazing to score a try. And they had a 4-point lead. It would push it up to a 9 or 11 point. That would have, I feel, would have been the game. And we got out of it. And that 100%. And that broke them. Like, not badly, but that was it. That was that moment.
100% shock. I think it was one of those things. I mean, like, I don't know, my brain is probably going on. That 4-point lead. I think France and almost the Springboks knew then what if France score next, it's probably game. And I think at 11 points, I think France will sort of go back into the mold of kicking it deep and sort of can back themselves defensively if they need to close the game out. But I think for them, they had that feeling like 9 points or 11 points buffer. That's the safe thing. I think that's what maybe let them get into a little bit of a panic. And the crazy thing for France, it's all fine margins, right? Because I mean, you come against the best scramble defense in the world, and France keep creating opportunities and great opportunities. I mean, even at the end there, when Pinot made that break and found Fuku, like, oh geez, how are these folks finding a way to keep coming back? And then, which is a testament to them. But I think in a game like that, it does come down to those fine margins. I think Pinot, as good as he was, I think defensively, what Thomas went on, but he worried about him defensively. I think the Springboks exposed him, and they sort of it's my load shedding coming back, and they sort of and they sort of found us later. I think Kobe was amazing with all his fun spacing behind Pinot, and I just think for France, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to look back on when they get to the Ireland game as well. It's a harsh one because they didn't do much wrong. I think that's the tough part. It's one thing if you can rock up, you can leave it there. But if a game like that when it's like just fine margins, they're still a high class outfit, and unfortunately they had to be a loser, and luckily it wasn't the Springboks.
I think it's also maybe Cooks. We know, I think from NFL and NBA, that sometimes a team needs to lose in order to climb up the mountain to win. And I guess arguably you can say with the Springboks, they had that losing moment in 2015 because a lot of the big key players now were in that 2015 squad that lost to the All Blacks. And I guess they saw, obviously, with that fantastic All Blacks team, what they needed to do in order to get to the top. And that team had etzebeth, Khaleesi, Peter Steff, Ludiaga, I think was Marks there, Pollard, etc., etc. Now, I think France are probably on, maybe that's the learning that they get, that, they'll still, I mean, we know this. We've talked about this many times. They'll still be a force for the next 4 years, rest assured. Majority of their players are all going to come back, and they're going to be in their early 30s. Dupont is still somehow 26, and Tamak is still somehow 25. etc., etc., etc. They're going to get Mani Morfana as well from Toulouse, and he's going to continue the legacy of the thick locks that France likes to produce. I'm sure Paolo Tuilagi is also going to have something to say about that. So hopefully this is sort of the Graham Henry 2007 loss that helps you to win in 2011. So yeah, I can only imagine that France will definitely be in the conversation for winning the World Cup in 4 years' time. They definitely have the players. Gautier's done a really good job. He's staying with Sean Edwards. They'll have to make a few changes in the coaching staff. They'll have to try to find a replacement for Winnie Antonio. But for most things, they should be well covered to be a world-class team in the next 4 years. Yeah. James, do you want to go through maybe some of the big moments that happened in the game? Just very quickly. So, I mean, I think you're gone, Sean.
Sorry, I apologize. I didn't know you were going to chat more.
Sorry,
it wasn't really a big moment, but I'm sorry to interrupt you. But I thought Pietro Malvaca was outstanding. I was shit scared every single time he touched the ball. I was worried something was going to happen, and he was flipping, ripping it up. I was scared.
I think it's just he can't be this good as a ball carrier and be a hooker. Like, that seems illegal. Like, something's wrong there. Like, he's not like just those hookers that are good with the ball and not good with the set piece stuff. He's very good with the set piece stuff. Maybe not as good as Marchand, but up there in standard. And he was ridiculous. But yeah, I think Marchand not being there did show with France just struggling to get turnovers. The turns that they usually would get. So a lot of the brunt fell on Aldridge. So if Malvaca was coming on with 30 minutes to go, that would have been a bit of chaos looking back. But yeah, I mean, he was good. I think Olivon had a really good game. Aldridge was fantastic as well. Jalibert, I think his option taking was a bit iffy sometimes, but he was good. I think the midfield also, they could have been a little bit better. But yeah, like, it was very, very, very fine margins in this game. Cooks?
No, I wanted to say, I think with Malvaca, I think the best compliment I can give him when you're playing in a match that involves some of the greats of the game and some of the best players in the world in Eben etzebeth, Dwayne Vermeulen, Dupont. If the French won, but Malvaca would be my man of the match. And I think there's certain times in that game or certain periods in that game where he was the best player on the field, especially in that first half. I thought the first half Malvaca was the best player on the field. I was like, he was incredible, and that's some of the best players in the world. And I thought he was incredible. I think for France, he's arguably been like the final of the World Cup. He's been one of the best players. He's had an incredible World Cup since coming on for Marchand early in the All Blacks game. But I thought he was incredible. And I just wanted to send a special shout out to Dupont. I mean, that there was a break he made on the blind side, and then like on the blind side, I think it's about a meter in. There's not many people who can make that break and sort of create something out of nothing. And then there was when I think he carried, and then Sia had a rip, and it looked stone cold. Sia had ripped the ball from him, and the way that Dupont ripped the ball back from Sia, and then within I think 10 minutes later, but etzebeth, same thing. He had all money had, and then he just ripped it back. Like, isn't not even a rip where he's still like almost like he ripped it back and was still able to go down and place it properly. I'm like, he makes certain plays where it's just freaky. And on Saturday, I mean last night, I thought the first about 10 minutes, he looked a little tentative to take contact, obviously, but then I think when JC Kriel ran into him on the touchline there, that sort of like, he's sort of like, okay, you know what, this middle cheek and scrum cap is fine. And then from there, he's like, okay, cool. If I can handle this, and then I should be fine. But I thought Dupont, I think I got a few tweets asking people going like, ooh, like, I didn't see the Dupont I thought would see. Like, is this? I'm like, guys, I don't know what more that Oak must do. I know Jared and I were debating. Jared was at 90%. I like, obviously he wasn't 100%. He's got a medal fucking plate in his
he can't travel internationally.
and that's what the guy puts on. I mean, like, under that much duress, there's no 9 that can put on a performance like that under that much duress. No, and never. For him to still put out a great performance under most 9s, it's tickets. It shuts down the whole. They that amount of pressure is so tough. But I think with DuPont, he's so good structurally in terms of his passing game, his kicking game, kicking with both feet. But Sean, I think the scariest thing is when you almost force him to, you sort of force him to, when you put him in the corner, it's like, okay, cool, now create something out of nothing. Like, those times when the box would press him, and then he beats that first rusher, you're like, oh shit, now you're in trouble. Because you got to stop him immediately. Once he beats that first hook, and then his head pops out, and you're like, oh no, now you panic, because he can create a situation from nothing. Where there's a couple of times when you need to dig for the ball, he sort of pops up, where he sort of pops up, and then his head just pops up. You're like, oh crap, Pon's going backwards, and then someone shoots at the line. They miss the first tackle, and then from there becomes chaos. And I think that's what DuPont does. It's scary how when things go off script, he's at his most dangerous. And it's just, what a player, man! Like what a player.
But he's like, he really, everything runs through him, absolutely everything. And he was put under a lot of pressure, and you're 100% right. There's no player on earth that would have been able to manage what was thrown at him on Saturday. And I mean, it cost France in spaces, but I mean, he was also single-handedly the reason why they did anything else. But it was incredible. And it all started with that first 2 minutes of the game when they scored. Like, the start that the France had was something I was expecting the South Africans to do, but the French came out pumping, man. And like, he was amazing, but it was an unbelievable start by France. Like, that was a massive moment in the game. And like, I think it kind of basically, the marker was put down there and then. Like, this is what's going to happen. This is what we want to do. Everyone knows it, but it doesn't always happen. And then it was game on after that.
No, 100%. No, it was a marker was laid. I think and then I think France. Yes, that Eben etzebeth intervention there, that knockback is so massive, because you're right. Because 14-0, 12-0 there, it could be a different game. And it's also Eben etzebeth off the yellow card.
Penalty try.
Yeah, 100%. So I think, it was such a massive play. I think, and France said that double punch who knows how it could have happened. And then, but I mean, to wrap it up, what a game. I mean, there's still 3 other quarterfinals, and you got to talk about, but geez, that was a fantastic game of rugby.
Just on one thing, it's something that I just want to get off my chest. I honestly thought, I really, really thought that we got a lot on Saturday. And I can promise you right now, if roles were reversed and we lost that game, everyone would be having a field day. Just like everyone's moaning about the French fans, moaning about X, Y, and Z. But I really honestly thought we got a lot on Saturday. There was breakdown chaos for both sides, but there were a lot of things that went our way. You're talking about etzebeth reminded me of it, but I actually think that was a great call. You can't 100% say that it went forward. And that was challenging, but yeah, I really thought that we got a fair bit, and I think we, in a way, were a little bit lucky with quite a few things, but we still managed to pull it through under the pressure we were at. So yeah, on to the semifinals we go, eh?
And let's continue now with looking at the other semifinal from Saturday, or quarterfinal from Saturday, I should say. The Springboks opponents next week will be England. They beat Fiji 30 points to 24. In some ways, a really well-managed game from England. They got the lead. They got a bit of distance between them and Fiji. It was predictable that Fiji would have that moment where they scored 2 tries in like 10 seconds, like they did in this game. And they came back to the game, tied up the score. And then England won it with a really well-taken drop goal and a penalty near the end, and were able just to hold out Fiji. Cooks, I'll start with you. With England, I mean, obviously, first of all, Cooks, we have to again come and bow at the feet of your awesome rugby knowledge. I mean, you saw this England team coming from a mile away, when basically, I'm not even sure Steve Borthwick was able to see the success there. They're the only remaining unbeaten team in the World Cup. They're the only remaining Northern Hemisphere team in the Rugby World Cup. And they still play such crap rugby. Cooks, I mean, how do you see this England performance?
To quote Teller, the great Thanos on Avengers, he says, "They call me a madman." I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought? But unfortunately, the run's got to end because I did say they go to the final. So I'm more than happy to
I was
keep
just about to ask about that.
to keep my tag as the rugby in the pits just for until Saturday, because then obviously the Boks are going to win, and then we can go back to being all of us being rugby pits. But so I think I'm going to ride out this whole week until then. But then England's going to lose. But I think Tyler again. I think England. I thought it was one of the better performances they've had under Borthwick in the year. I thought they were good in terms of the way they managed the game, especially after the chaotic nature when Fiji came back and just basically that crazy 10 minutes that spell they normally have. And I thought England did well to manage it. Takes the drop goal, get another penalty. Thanks for coming. I thought England was good. I think the best thing about England's performance is all the stalwarts showed out this week. And I thought Courtney Lawes was fantastic. Even though he pushed the radar, and I thought England also managed the ref very, very, very well. They knew the levels to push and sort of force Reynal into making decisions. And if he doesn't make decisions, then England will keep on harassing. I think England spoiled Fiji very well. That's what Courtney Lawes did. Toje was very, very good again for me in the weekend. That's I'm sure Tyler Dill, that's going to make you exceptionally happy to see your boy back to that menacing form, because he was an absolute pest. But I think as good as England was, for me, that's why you have Owen Farrell in your team. Saturday just Sunday. That's why you have Owen Farrell in your team. That's what makes him so good. That's why he's one of the best 10s and one of the best players England's produced. And I just think the way he marshaled the game, controlled the game, I thought he played a lot more flatter on Saturday. I think early on, because England showed a lot more intent than I thought they would. But I thought obviously the way he managed the game, 20 points. He's kicking very, very well again, which is, was weird. His kicking was sort of wayward, but I thought that was his best performance in England should for a while, and I thought it was needed. And I think England, the way they sort of looking a little bit more balanced on attack with kicking and running the ball a lot more. But I definitely do think on Saturday they go back to type A, which is probably straight to the back, and then just an aerial assault. Because I do feel like on Saturday, if you're looking for a 35-34 sort of game like this weekend, I think you're going to get England's going to make sure that does not happen. But I thought England was very good, and yeah, I think I can't wait for Saturday.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Cooks. Massive performances from numbers 4 to 8. I thought they were just absolute menaces for Fiji. Like you said, Courtney Lawes was in constant conversation with Matthew Reynal about, hey, how far can I push this now? And how about now? And how about now the whole time? Tom Curry, I think he had a rough first 20 minutes, but he came back well, top of tackles as he usually is. Ben Earl has been a revelation for England. He's brought that Saracens form into the English shirt. It's still a bit of an imbalanced loose trio. I wonder if they go for Billy Vunipola and Earl at 7 on Saturday. But
tell her Billy Vunipola should be nowhere near the field when England play the Springboks. I'm not going down this flipping thing again of Billy Vunipola, and he has literally constant disaster clauses against the Boks. They should be nowhere near.
But he's physical.
Oh, there's even an SA Rugby magazine cover with Dwayne and Billy. I think it's 2014, the battle of the two best mates. And then Billy Vunipola put on a disaster class of disaster classes. That guy he's fine whatever he is. There's one team should play against, it's the Springboks.
I totally see what you're saying there. And I really thought Mitchell and Farrell managed the game so well from halfback. Mitchell's box kicking was mostly really good. I think, it's obviously something he's not well known for. He's obviously more of a running type of 9. But his box kicking really put Fiji under pressure. They got nothing from the aerial battles. Farrell, I still maintain, I know there's a lot of George Ford fans, but I still maintain he's the best all-round fly half out of the two. He kicks well. He obviously, let's not talk too much about his defense because he did have some questions on Sunday, but he also gets the attack going a lot better than Ford does for me, which is why I didn't think it was too controversial to choose him instead of Ford. I think there's questions about what you do at 15 though, but I thought he played really well. Sean, maybe just on the Fijian side, I mean, yeah, they were obviously quite frustrated, and I guess maybe it's the time to talk about the Reynal performance. I think ultimately what lost them the game was just a few, unforced errors, basically. Like when they did have opportunities with the ball, when they did have a bit of momentum, like they just either gave the ball away or just maybe tried to attack for too many phases, behind the advantage line. Because in most stats, and obviously the goal kicking didn't really work out for them, but in most stats, they were close to level with the English.
Yeah. Like if Fiji had to like look at how they could manage themselves to win that game on Saturday, they really struggled for large parts, especially the beginning. Like they didn't seem to be at the races. I really thought that England were going to absolutely obliterate them at one stage. I just thought they were going to crumble because it really looked to me like Fiji was stuck in between the DNA of how they always play and how they should be playing Test rugby. Like they were between the two. And where they've done so well previously, like against Australia and Wales, was they got to marry those two things together and they were all working like in harmony. And that didn't happen on Saturday because that was the thing is they have a solid scrum, they have a decent line out, and then they've got that Fijian DNA and that running and those incredible hands, and they're absolutely just athletes, muscles coming out of their ears. And they didn't kind of get that right. And then they did get it right. And then that's all they needed. They needed to just get their tails up. And the thing is England are mentally they're soft and in a way that if you get on top of them, they can fall back into the oh shit, we playing crap again situation. And that's what happened. And somehow, and the thing is that burns me coming up to this weekend is England managed to pull things right again. Like they managed to fight for it. They didn't crumble completely. And a couple calls. It was challenging. Like if we're very honest with each other, we're probably going to get Reynal or another one of the French referees this weekend. So we need to just get used to the way that they officiate. They're going to officiate completely differently to the way O'Keefe does, Southern Hemisphere. We know this. So it was tough for Fiji. I was bummed because I expected more from them in the first half and we got it in the second half and they just couldn't pull it off because there was a stage there where I thought they could win and I was like just watching the TV with my jaw wide open.
Now, I think on the Reynal thing, I think my frustration is it's twofold. I think Reynal did allow England to get away with murder and England knew and England realized that and they sort of played him very well, which is very, very smart of England. And England are a street smart side, especially when you got the likes of Itoje, Laws, Farrell. They know, especially Laws and Itoje, they are masters of the dark arts. Itoje is a menace of all menaces. So he wakes around and just probably just walks around and walks to kids like fairs and just like hits cupcakes out their hands. That's how much he loves spoiling things. I'm sure that's his favorite hobby. But he just likes being a menace. That's what he does.
I think Itoje probably just like 100% he pops balloons. I think he's just that guy that just arrives at like kids' parties and just smashes the cake.
Yeah.
And just like, whoops.
Yeah. You're having your morning coffee in the office, it's like, it's the coffee cup out your hand, like spills in your white shirt. Like, hey, sorry, man, now I spoiled your day. Like, so like, and the thing is, and so they know how to stretch the laws that it's you need an official, like almost a ref that's very harsh and clear on the one that break away right now at times is like, hey, free fall. Because guys, Courtney Laws and Material were having a conversation while Courtney Laws was holding the ball, like, leave it. I'm like, my man, you've got a whistle. Like, that's how you can get him to leave it. Blow the whistle. But, and I think that they just as well, but I think, Fiji will be unlucky. But I think for me, the biggest call, and this is one of my gripes on rugby, I personally think that Tom Curry should be red carded for that for that little Count Dickie
100%.
throwback special. Because what hurt me the most is, what annoyed me the most is, he was nowhere near a rap. He's literally ended up with his hands on the ground. Like, he's basically going, there's no way you can rap and then still somehow have your hands on the ground as if like nothing. Like, I'm like, oh man, he's literally gone shoulder first. That is a...
But the ref has said literally that. He said it is foul play, but then he hasn't carded him. I don't understand.
That for me is, understand, like, as much as how hard we're going on head knocks and head contact, someone diving into your knees. If, for example, a boot gets stuck on the ground or hits in the wrong way, that's someone's career done. ACL, knees done. And we have
what
to
about a
stamp
knee
that
to
out.
his head?
It's 100%.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I could not believe that was not... I thought it should have been a red card, but the fact that it wasn't even a card, I was like, this is unbelievable. And I mean, like Tyler said, I mean, like, I mean, I'm sure that woke up Tom Curry, because my word, the first 20 minutes, I don't know what was going on with Tom Curry, but yeah, I think, geez, I still, that something that's got to change, because, for example, like Tom Curry's first ban, which I still think was harsh, like, but then he does something worse. He almost basically almost takes someone's legs out, and it's like, nah, just play on. Like, we owe you one. World Rugby says we actually owe you one. So stay on the field. Our bad. We got the other ban wrong for 4 weeks. So so you got one free foul play, and Sam and Tom Curry used it properly.
Yeah, no, I think that was really good there from Curry. Yeah, I think you've nailed the talking points there. But even with that, Fiji still had enough opportunities, though. Like, they still were quite close to England with penalties conceded and with the turnovers. So I don't know. Yeah, it was in their hands to try and actually win this game. But I think that's enough. Or Sean, is there anything else you want to say about this team?
Can I quickly add?
Go.
If there's any English fans here and they know anyone from England or know any journalists or anyone from England, please tell them that if you guys want to win on Saturday, do not write one single piece of positive thing about this team in England. Just go back to the days when you lost to Fiji. Just call this team useless again. Do not get carried away now because you won this weekend. Do not make the same mistake of 4 years ago. Please, I'm trying to help you in a way, because if you do and you give this Springboks any extra motivation, we will hurt you. This will hurt you again. So if I'm English press, I'm not writing an article. I'm just be like, you know what? Reprint the ones from the last time. Don't even praise this English side. Just go on as if nothing's happened. Go on with your days. Do not fall in your trap that you've always fallen to with your sports side, or you overhype them for too much. Because do not give this box side any added motivation to beat you again.
Yeah, I would, if I'm England, this is actually almost the perfect game for England if they want to do a siege revenge. Like, this is kind of the same situation as 4 years ago with the New Zealand semi-final, but they're just worse. This week, nothing must be said in the press. No Ellis Gench must be in the press, no Joe Marler. Like, just get Owen Farrell to give 2-word answers basically the whole week and say absolutely nothing like he usually does. Borthwick also knows how to say a lot by saying nothing. So, like, get those people to just give no sort of like motivation and just lull the box into some sense of like false security. I mean, we'll talk about the other semifinals, but it's quite, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Springboks start thinking about New Zealand next week. Obviously, the coaches will make sure that they don't do that, but it's very easy for them to be lulled into that false sense of security that the job's done and they can look forward to the final. So if I'm England, I'm playing into that, almost that ego as far as possible, just to sort of keep the eyes off them. I mean, praise the Springboks as much as possible. Talk about how tough it was. Talk about last year in Twickenham, how they thrashed you. Like, and just give such vanilla answers and hopefully and pay Clive Woodward and Matt Dawson, I don't know how much pounds, but they must say nothing in the press this week. They must be bound and gagged and thrown into like the London Tower for the week. Like, no articles from Clive, no articles from Dawson, no motivation must go to the Springboks. They must just be quiet and then just rock up and try to surprise the box. I mean, we'll talk about it during the week. I don't know if they have much of a chance, but if they do, it's not by, kicking up the hornet's nest this week. Sean?
You know me. I don't care. It's against the Springboks. I do not care. We must dominate. And one thing I will say, one thing that I've never ever felt about the Springboks is complacency. The other is I stand by what I said earlier, where we didn't play well for large parts of the game against France. Like, we executed well when we turned over, but there's so much more we can fix. And I don't think that anyone in the Springbok camp for 1 second believes that England are going to be a walkover. We have to hit them hard. Like, the only way we prove that England are shit is by beating them by 40 points. Like, we don't leave them in the game. We don't let them cruise through. We don't let anything. We have to go, and we have to go hard. So you guys must stop this cuck
now. Okay, then. Let's then go into the other semifinals. Let's start with Argentina-Wales game. So Argentina, I'm just going to slide past that. So Argentina won 29 points to 17 against Wales. Very funny game, I think, as well. Because it seemed like Wales, Sean, I think it seemed like Wales had it basically up until like the 35th minute. And then all the momentum went to Argentina and they couldn't really stop it. There was an opportunity for Wales to really stretch that lead out to about 15 to 20 points, and they just didn't take it. And Argentina, if you give them a bit of a gap, they'll go, and they're so much better with Nico Sanchez playing, but that's, again, a conversation for another day. Los Pumas, I think, should be happy with, obviously, that they came through. And, when they can get their attack going and keep the ball and go through phases, then they put any defense under big pressure.
Yeah, I agree on Nico Sanchez. He needs to start. I really feel that that's what they need. And yeah, it was an interesting game. I think Wales are still a little bit vulnerable in that they're from where they've come from in the last few months, and really needed to kind of knuckle things down. Almost kind of what I mentioned about England, like where they get a little bit soft and then they crumble, and it's like the oh shit, it's happening again vibe. And that's what happened. I mean, at halftime, what was it, a 10-3 lead or 10-6? And slowly Argentina got back in, took the lead. And then Thomas Williams, like that try, I was like, because it seemed like Argentina were on top of it and in the game. And then Williams scored, and I was like, oh, now Argentina are going to crumble and Wales are just going to dominate. And it did the opposite. Then Sclavi scored, I think, and then Sanchez scored with an intercept. But that intercept was huge. That's a 17-19 game. Wales, a penalty wins it for them, and Sanchez has come on and they've absorbed the pressure, and then he's gone for gold. So very interesting. I'm loving it though. Loving Argentina back in the groove.
And Cooks, Michael Cheika teams are always so difficult to analyze because it seems like they are allergic to, kicking well and playing with territory and everything. I must give Argentina credit, though. They seem like they did learn at least from some of their mistakes from the England game. I mean, they kicked 34 times in this game. It seemed like Wales was actually the ones trying to maybe play too much with the ball. And they did sort of adjust to playing a defensive team that is happy to park the bus and to try and defend things. And I think, the big difference there was to give Carreras his credit, like him and Thomas Kobe. I think they tried to manage the game well. But again, I can't get away from there were a lot of chances for Wales to actually just go far and away in this game, and they have only themselves to blame.
No, 100%. I think Wales lost the game in the first half. I think that's where, for me, that was the big loss. I mean, they're sort of in cruise control. The first 30 minutes of the game wasn't great, but I think Wales did enough to sort of be in cruise control of that game. And then they sort of, the way they closed out the first half and allowing the game to go at 10-6, I think, at half time. And you're like, jeepers, like Wales was like, Argentina were nowhere to be seen. And sort of, then you gave them a little bit of a spark, and then Argentina sort of woke up and realized and realized that they were actually playing a quarterfinal. They're like, oh yeah, guys, remember we're actually playing a quarterfinal, so let's start playing some rugby, and they did. And I thought Argentina was good the second half, but yeah, Wales definitely a chance. I think this one's going to hurt as well because I think, I mean, it's a performance where like, Wales, for some reason, it felt like they kept getting drawn into playing too much rugby for no reason. And I thought this was a perfect Warren ball sort of game where you just sort of test rugby them, kick well, defend well, create 1 or 2 chances, take your chances, but they sort of almost try to do too much. Where I think Argentina, I think the master stroke was what Michael Check has done is having the likes of Kriel and Sanchez on the bench. So good experience on the bench, guys who close out those games. I thought Sanchez was very good when he came on, makes a massive play to get the intercept and win the game. But yeah, I think Wales is definitely for them. It's definitely a game they'll feel like they lost, and I think maybe it's going to be tough for them because yeah, I definitely think that it's a semi-final berth that they threw away.
Yeah, and a relatively easy one at that. They should be kicking themselves. Okay, let's get to the final game we're discussing, which is the New Zealand versus Ireland game. And that was also an epic. Probably, yeah, I mean, before the Springbok France game, probably the best knockout game or the best quarterfinal game that we've seen in a long time. New Zealand winning that 28 points to 24. And yeah, they just had a really good start and then came back. Ireland tried to come back and New Zealand just did enough, and it was good game management and fantastic defense that helped them just seal the win. Cooks, I'll start with you. Before we go into what for Ireland, but I think in terms of the All Blacks, they really got to their top level and they showed that, geez, they still have a fantastic team if most of their top 23 players are fit.
Oh, Tyler, what?
And they have proper coaching.
No, 100% epic. I mean, that's probably the best performance in the 4 years. That and Ellis Park last year. I don't know if you guys watched the press conference, but I did have a chuckle at Ian Foster's comment and they asked him, like, is that the best performance in your reign? And he's like, yeah, but I think it's Ellis Park last year, since that's the one you guys always go on about. Is it to the media? I did enjoy that little dig. I mean, after that, I was like, Fozzie, you a dig because flipping hell, you've caught your unwarranted, but he's caught his flack. But I thought the All Blacks were great, and I think, you know, Rusty always talks about, and we like to talk about the gutters. I think the All Blacks went deep into the gutter, and what I thought was so good about the All Blacks, I think in the first game against France, the All Blacks scored very quickly, had a great start against them, scored early again in the second half, and then sort of allowed France to slowly but surely get back into the game. And I thought what the All Blacks did well this weekend was they just always kept their noses in front, finding a penalty here and there, finding 3 points here and there. Jody Barry's boot was absolutely epic, one of such a clutch goal kicker. And also I think just they always kept themselves in front. And I thought, because I didn't think Ireland necessarily, I just felt Ireland did so well to always get themselves back in the game. But the All Blacks almost didn't give them a chance to actually throw a punch. And there's always kept, Ireland would catch up and the All Blacks pull away again. Ireland catches up and they also had, very similar to the Springboks, the All Blacks had big chances and when they got the chances, they were clinical, like the Moanga breaks. But for the Will Jordan trial, but I mean, I think the All Blacks, the effort, I mean, 37 phases at the end there to defend. You against the best attack in the world, that just goes down to all effort. I mean, that rugby goes out the window there. It goes down to effort and what the group thinks of each other. And I think the All Blacks, it's absolutely, that was a massive performance. Sam Cane, Artie Sevilla, I mean, Sam Whitelock was amazing. He came on. Brody, I mean, you could name so many guys who were good. But I love Andy Good saying that that should have been a penalty. Like at the end, it should have been a penalty for Ireland. I was like, do you not see the Negro and Artie like 3 phases before, or the number of times that Ireland got like, there's about 2 or 3 penalties that should have been called like within those 32 phases, and then I was like, so. I also don't think there was I thought there was a stone clear penalty from Sam Whitelock, but what an absolute insane effort from the All Blacks. I mean, that was incredible. What a test as well.
Massive test, I think, from both teams, and they really put it all out there. And yeah, I think the big difference for the All Blacks was a lot of their big players really played well. And yeah, I think it was a big test for I think the players that had doubts, I've certainly thrown more than my fair share of doubts on these players, but the props were really good. I think it's the first time they were able to take away Andrew Porter's invisibility cloak in the scrums, which was obviously important. Shannon
Sure.
Frizzell carried well.
Did you
He
see that
didn't
aerial
really,
view of his first penalty? Like, he was facing
yeah.
the touchline scrummaging. I'm like, if you didn't pick that up, you would have been blind.
But he's been doing that the whole time. That's what I
I
don't
know.
understand. And
Yeah,
look, shout
yeah.
out to Provincial State of Mind. Jeff has been on this for 2 years, and for whatever reason, refs just didn't really pick it up. And this week, I don't know if Foster and James Ryan like made a big point to it to Wayne Barnes, but there was going to be a game where it cost Ireland or Leinster, and unfortunately, it was this quarterfinal. But yeah, great on Lomax to put him under pressure, and even on Newell and Tamati Williams, they came on and they were really good at the scrums. I was actually expecting a bit of a drop off in the scrums because those are two really young props. And, obviously they didn't do well in the Twickenham game, but I guess it was the support of Dane Coles and Sam Whitelock around them as well. So they were brilliant. Frizzell carried well, even if he didn't maybe make as many meters as he did in that smart game. So apparently Frizzell, Kane and Xavier have won 5 out of the 6 games that they've started together. The only time they've lost was against Argentina last year. So maybe some confidence for the Pumas. Sam Kane was a machine, an absolute machine. Like, we're very much big supporters of Sam Kane on this pod, but I think we know this as people that watch Sam Kane week in, week out. When it's a tight trench warfare type of game, that's the player that you want because he's the player that will put his body on the line. And in a way, maybe the McCaw comparison is a bit off, but kind of like early Skalkberger that just absolutely puts his body on the road essentially and just is willing to get himself run over. Richie Monga's 10 minutes at scrum half was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I thought he was so good at managing the game.
Outstanding. That was outstanding. Like his passes, kicks, like it was incredible.
Geordie Barrett, obviously, with the massive stop with his big thigh there. I still watch that. I'm still not sure how Kelleher doesn't score from there. And I don't think there was much Kelleher could have done differently. Maybe he should have started diving instead of flopping over, if I can put it like that. But Barrett, his reactions to get down there so quickly was just amazing. You can't really fault that. I thought Rico was quite good at center. I don't even think the Aki try was really his fault. He was trying to stop Aki from going outside, which I think he did. His inside support didn't come there. Lestifying Ganuku was great. I think whatever Mark Talea was doing in the streets of Paris is probably going to lose him opportunities to feature in these knockout games now. Yeah, so I think it was just a fantastic game from all of the big players for the All Blacks. Sean, on the island side, I don't know. I still am shaking my head. I just don't know what and how and when it will happen for them because they were so close. And even in the last minutes with them basically attacking from deep and going through those 30 phases, it just felt like, okay, maybe New Zealand's just going to give it away. Maybe New Zealand's just going to make a mistake and blink. But geez, yeah, I don't know what Ireland or how Ireland sort of makes it or improves from where they are. I mean, this is a special generational side, and geez, they still can't get over this flippin' monkey on their backs.
This is going to hurt them. It really, really is. It's I feel bad kind of saying what I'm going to say because obviously we got quite a lot of mates over there, but it was a lot of it felt to me that Ireland were expecting to go through and we're just like, it sounds bad. I don't think they just pitched up, but this is probably a prime example of the downside of being so structured and like a metronome because nothing changed in their game. They believed in it so much, like, and it's worked. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, we saw it in the All Blacks for years and years, and Ireland almost beat the record for the most test wins for a tier 1 nation. But losing in the quarterfinal hurts. And there was some decisions made that probably are going to give them nightmares going forward. I thought Sexton could maybe have come off 5 or 10 minutes early, but that is such a tough decision to make. You know he's got the plums to win the game for you. So are you going to take him off at a vital period? Probably not, but he really looked out on his feet. And yeah, it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch because I think everyone expected them to make that move into the semifinals. And it just goes to show that like sport is cruel, but amazing, depending on what side of the coin you're on. And like on the day, you've got to be the best and you have to absolutely blow it away. And kind of similar, like France and Ireland, kind of similar against South Africa and New Zealand, where like they probably played the better game. In a way, it was probably obviously more structured and stuff like that. But playing the All Blacks, they've got it. The thing is I believe that Ireland felt that they had the All Blacks number. Like they felt that they could deal with whatever they threw at them, and they almost did. But they just didn't quite have like that idea. Like going down, well, what did they go down in the first 20 minutes? 10 points, 15 points? I can't remember. Like going down there, that's when everyone kind of sat up and was like, oh, hang on a second. Like this is real. This is a test match. This is a quarterfinal. But another 60 minutes left in the game. You're like, cool, Ireland must, that's your warning shot across the bow. Settle in and sort it out. And Sexton's the right man to guide people around. But the frustration started settling in with everybody. And it started showing. And the All Blacks were just feeding off that.
I think the hard thing with the All Blacks, for the Irish in the game, because the All Blacks emotionally put a lot into that game. I mean, there's an Aaron Smith video when you could see, like, in his eyes, it was like, listen, this last year hurt. They even mentioned that they lost to England, and it's like, this what it hurt. It hurt us. And I love the fact you didn't mention, like you said, there's a few Oaks in here who experienced England and experienced last year. Like, it hurt. And it's one of those things
Cooks, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Shaki?
Did you see in that interview when they asked him something and he was just like, he just had this stare and he looked and he says, we can play them now.
No, 100%.
I was like, oh, he's on.
It was one of those things. And Shaki was like, okay, Ireland need to sort of not try and match New Zealand's emotional levels and sort of just focus. I thought Ireland one of the biggest traits in this run is how efficient they have been. Like the execution has been at all-time high, and I thought they got drawn into that emotional battle that the All Blacks were almost feeding off. I think the All Blacks, because I still think that Ireland are a better side, and they've shown they are a better side in terms of this run leading up, and the All Blacks had to draw on a lot more, and Ireland sort of fed into that by also sort of going down there and sort of trying to match the All Blacks' emotional levels, because the All Blacks with them was also a bit of pride and a bit of, listen, these guys came to New Zealand and fucked us up. Excuse my language, but that's what they did. They came there and they beat New Zealand. They won 5 of the last 7 tests. They favourites. And I saw a stat saying it's the first time New Zealand in their history, they've been not fair, so I think 4 games. And that was all against the Springboks, but the first time a side was a favourites against them, even besides the Springboks. So they're probably thinking, these dogs, we're the underdogs, yeah. And it's a scary place to play an All Black side. And even in that, I thought, and Ireland still had opportunities. And Ireland still got themselves back in that game. I just felt they just never threw a punch. But the All Blacks, and you could tell who are the guys who played well as well. It was a Sam Kerr, it was a Boden Barrett, it was a Bodie Retallick, it was Aaron Smith. All the experienced members, they all stepped up and as if like, listen, these dogs cannot beat us again. And I think with Ireland, I think it's going to be hard. Oh, it's and for me, it's because you see a lot of tweets about and people going like, oh, like what, like is it worth now winning 4 years or win one game? And their run is incredible. It's one of the best runs ever. That doesn't change. I think now they just fall in that bracket of like the 03 All Blacks, like the 07 All Blacks who All Black sides who were good in between World Cup, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's unfortunate, which is nothing wrong with that. I think you look at 2003, the All Blacks put 50 on the Wallabies and Springboks leading up to the World Cup, and they had a very good side, but just they lost a good Wallaby side on the day in the World Cup. So it's one of those things. I think Ireland will always be remembered for this run, and they can be incredibly proud of what they did. But they're just almost in that next tier of they could fall in some of the best sides have never won it. I mean, one of those in that tier. But it's gonna hurt for them. I definitely think so. But the All Blacks on the weekend, after the Aaron Smith video, and also when they swept the shades, rugby values, #rugby values, I think that's where it was also one.
Another thing that I was reminded about, like, it's just thinking back now when we talk about Aaron Smith, and I mean, New Zealand did take a lead, but I have never, not anywhere in a game, let alone the opening 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I've never seen the All Blacks so nervous. Aaron Smith probably used his lifetime's worth of shit passes in 5 passages of play. It was that also, in a small way, I think probably reinforced with Ireland. They're like, if we just go the way we go, we will win, because we've just got to work it, stick to the plan, because the All Blacks were rattled. I mean, honestly, when how many times you can't even count on one? You can count it on one hand how many times Aaron Smith has thrown a bad pass in his life, and he threw 3 in the opening few minutes, 2 to 3. It was just crazy. I've never seen the All Blacks like that. It was quite something.
Also, Shocky was also crazy. Like you said, like it was that start of theirs. Like obviously, like there was a bit of nerves there, but also they sort of got momentum. And one thing about the All Blacks, I mean, even at their peak, they always had this thing. The more desperate they are, and the more tired of the game, they just resort back to their pack and they just pick and goes and just go bully. And they almost try and don't make the game as helter-skelter. They just sort of go like, we're just going to try and go through. And I think that's what they did. I mean, obviously, they still can create tries out of anywhere. I think some of their tries there, I think what Rico did very well. Rico had wanted to, I think in his try was where he gave Lisa Fanny sort of drop back and receive back and scored. He was the last passer for Cody Taylor and for Artie Surveyor's try. Just those small differences, I think, is what makes us a sharp side. If they are firing, you just know they're about to get 2 or 3 tries just due to good decision making and just out and out skill. But it's gonna be the nice thing is you can actually listen to Zombies again now. Fucking hell! The last month you could not listen to that song. Now you walk in the shop and you sing Zombies, be like, oh, it's about the Irish. Now at least you can sing that song. And I mean, Ireland must be fun, guys. I mean, they won the Six Nations. They won Munster on the URC. So it's not our fault they decided to win 5 games in a row at the start of the year, not in October. And hey, guys, shame you. Life, rugby heritage, guys, is a real thing. That's a real thing.
This reminds me of just Real Madrid just finding a way in the Champions League. Like, they would not be the favorite team. I thought this weekend could actually be like a bit of a shift in the rugby cosmos of things moving up north. And somehow New Zealand, the Springboks, just grew an extra leg and arm just to get themselves past 2 teams that they've had their struggles with in the last few years, and 2 teams that have been absolutely consistent and almost faultless in their performances. So like this was very much rugby heritage coming out there. There's so much you can say about Ireland, but I think the big thing is I hate this talking point, because I think this is kind of the reason why the rugby, that World Rugby trophies maybe could change things for a positive, is anyone that devalues what Ireland have done in the last 20 years, in the last 4 years, sorry, is just talking out their bum, man, because it's a Grand Slam, a very good Grand Slam, 17 wins in a row, like close to the record. Away test series victory against New Zealand. Literally only 4 teams have done that ever in rugby, ever, full stop. So those things show you more than anything else, obviously, how great this Irish team was. On another day with a better draw, they're at least in a semi-final. And yeah, like there's obviously so much they can do in the future. Like Crowley's going to take up Sexton's spot. Beelum is there for Furlong's spot. Baird's going to take Peter Omani's spot. You know, there's going to be some succession. We've seen how good the under-20s are. They're going to probably be the team that boosts themselves the most playing against South African teams throughout the year. Like, things are there and they're set up. And again, similar to what I said for France, like, there is a bit of a Graham Henry 2007 crossroads moment they have. I mean, I think they've extended Andy Farrell's contract already, but yeah, they must just continue on this path. Farrell must try to get in whatever outside help, whoever their 2007 Eddie Jones is, and just keep on continuing to grow this team. For New Zealand,
I know who can help them. Sangoma.
Certain.
That's what they need. A Sangoma. Just slaughter a cow, slaughter a goat.
Slaughter a few goats.
Do something. Like, this is time for like desperate times for COVID desperate measures. Something's gonna change here. It's like, that's what, or if in doubt, just bring in Michael Checker, but a year before the World Cup. Hey Chicks, do you mind helping out as a consultant, turn things around a year before the World Cup?
And box people.
Do something. I mean, just don't yeah, you're right. Just don't panic. Yeah, shame. It's sometimes you gotta go through the trenches, and they've been going through the trenches, but it's unfortunately they'll bounce back. But I think a few goats being slaughtered, I think they'll be fine. That's sometimes it solves many black families' issues. So I think this will solve Ireland's issues.
I was just gonna say, for New Zealand side, I don't know why teams aren't sniffing around James Ryan and trying to get them to be their head coach. I mean, maybe not for England now because Borthwick's made a semi-final. Maybe Gatland, there's an opportunity there. But James Ryan's transformed that New Zealand pack and made them fighters. I think he's probably put himself as someone that deserves a head coaching stint. Likely for, geez, guys, New Zealand's going to get better. They're going to have Razor, Ryan. Wayne Smith is coming back in. I think Schmidt is also still hanging around. That's scary. I'm very scared about that. But
do you remember all the comments when Schmidt left Ireland and then he went back to New Zealand and then he popped his head up in a little bit of Super Rugby and then voila, into the Kiwis. And everyone thought, oh, here comes something.
Yeah. Look, yeah. The problem is New Zealand actually has a very good chance of winning a World Cup with what could be their worst side in the last 20 years, which is very scary. But anyway, guys, let's first of all, let's, I think, shout out some of the retirees, the people that have played their last game. So Dan Biggar retires from the Welsh team after this World Cup. I'm sure the likes of Lee Halfpenny and possibly George North probably follow him soon. Johnny Sexton and Keith Earls have retired, possibly also Bundy Aki, who's had, I mean, if there's I'm sure the World Rugby Player of the Year / Player of the Tournament nominations will come out this week, but Aki deserves to be in that top 5 or shortlist or whatever, just on how good he was. But yeah, Sexton, obviously, you know, he's literally just a World Cup away from having a very good shot as being the best Northern Hemisphere fly half or player in all time. He's just been a brilliant, amazing player, obviously very competitive as well. Says the wrong things when he loses, but yeah, like he's that sort of person that you really come to watch, and he's had the same move that's worked for 15 years. Like having something named.
Did he use it properly this weekend though?
I mean, his legs were shot, and I think goes back to your point, Sean. He probably should have been subbed around by 60, 65 minutes. But
I didn't see the Sexton loop do any damage this weekend.
Yeah, but that's, I think, also just credit to New Zealand for the intensity in their defense. They didn't really give Ireland a chance to really get their patterns going. But I still think, even though Sexton was at walking pace essentially in the last 5 minutes, he still was finding gaps in the New Zealand defense, which is ridiculous. There's not going to be too many better 38-year-olds that play this game. So yeah, he's retiring. On the Fijian side, probably the last we'll see of someone like Levani Botia, unfortunately.
Don't say that.
Yeah. He's 34,
I know,
which
at
is
least
crazy.
we can watch him for La Rochelle, but yes, he's a weapon.
But yeah, I think him, Semi Radradra probably as well, Frank Lomani. I think Nisa Level's also in his 30s. So yeah, that's a special Fijian generation. We hope that the Drua can continue to produce these players. And then finally, on the French side, we talked about it, I think, earlier, but Winnie Antonio and Roman Taufe Fanua are also retiring. Just two big, in many ways, big players. And yeah, they've obviously really helped with this French upswing in the last few years. And they're going to be tough players to replace, I think, in some ways, because of just
guys,
their size.
Tala, is Sexton retired from internationals or Leinster as well?
Everything.
Damn.
Are you sure he's not retired, Cooks?
No, I thought we were still coming back for Leinster, one more run.
Nope.
And I was thinking, you know what? He goes to Leinster, plays one season, two more season, and then here we are, 2025. And Eddie Farrell gives him a call. Listen, buddy, can you give me 2 more years? I don't know what you're gonna do. Just give me 2 more years. Goes to the Lions tour, does mayhem, puts him back in the chamber, brings him back 2027 off the bench. Gets the
42
semifinal.
42 years old.
42 years old, Tom Brady style. Like I see, right now, I would send Sexton to America to go learn the TB12 Tom Brady program. So for 2 years. So play for Leinster for a bit, and then you spend the other half of the year with Tom Brady. Just how? Because Tom Brady was 45 when he retired. And then you go and you bring him back for all you need is you ask him to play essentially 13 caps. Few here for the Lions, few here in 2026, unleash him 2027 off the bench though, just mentoring Jack Crow. It will be a beautiful story. I'm just saying that's maybe if I'm Andy Farrell, I'm keeping it in the back pocket. I'm asking the Springboks who's got Tom Brady's number because clearly one of our people don't have his number. Like that's the least I can do. I mean, if he can't get hold of Rassie, ask one of like Peter Omani. I'm sure Peter Omani still knows has Rassie's number from Munster. Like, let a brother help another brother. You know what I mean? That's what I would do for Johnny Sexton.
There's someone that's leaving, Omani.
I can see him irritating people until he's 38 himself. So I wouldn't bet on that now.
How old is he now?
Yeah, 34, I think.
What?
Yeah, he's not that old.
I don't think. Maybe he's got another season.
I don't think his body's going to let him. His body won't allow him to get there. Not just. I don't think. Hopefully, his body.
But he has so much hate in his heart. He will just get it through spite.
He's dark, bro. Yeah, 100%.
34 confirmed. He's 34 years old right now. But yeah, I think with Sexton, I can't wait for his because he kind of retires in a similar way to Aaron O'Gara. Like most fans outside of pretty much his province hate him, but I can't wait for that resurgence and that face turn he does when he coaches in New Zealand for a little bit. Maybe he coaches with the Blues and not the Crusaders like Ronan did. Coaches in France, maybe gets like Bayonne or Montpellier, and then it's Sexton versus O'Gara part 2. And then they come together to coach Ireland. Sexton's obviously going to be a great coach. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard that story. Bernard Jacobin was telling that he was on a podcast. He was saying that some under-9s, he was doing like a coaching seminar, and some under-9s coach said, "Hey, can you give me all your like warm-up moves and warm-ups and can I have it urgently?" And then Jackman's like, "I'm driving. I can't really do it now." He phones the guy and he says, "Look, you don't know the pressure of coaching Johnny Sexton's son because Johnny Sexton's son was in his team. So Johnny was basically always looking over like what they're doing for warm-ups and the moves and everything. And it wasn't just Sexton's son, it was also Brian O'Driscoll's son. So yeah, I can see Sexton being involved in the game for the next 10, 15 years.
Imagine him being a coach. Like, look at his temperament. Imagine that guy. You think Rassie got long bands. That oak will get coaching bands for days. He won't even be allowed to be on the same continent as a World Cup, let alone the same stadium.
To be fair, Shockey, I mean, Ron O'Gara has turned to a great coach. I mean, and he did single-handedly lose a Lions series because he decided to take out Free Dupree in the air. He was no he was no calm, cool, collected rugby player as well. or Rog.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think now. I don't know. To be fair, the last 12 months in Sexton's career really kind of put a sour sort of taste in people's mouth in terms of his temperament and how he conducts himself, especially. I mean, he was having words after that game. Probably deserved. I'm hearing that he definitely deserved to give Rico a little bit of lip back. But yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, imagine Agara and Sexton up against each other in like a Champions Cup semi-final. It'll be chaos. There'll be punches thrown. It's not the first time.
Fist fights.
No, 100%.
I can't
Definitely
wait.
the first time.
Do you guys remember when who was the Crowley before Crowley? Carberry was coming up. And there was that one inter-pros game between Munster and Leinster, and Sexton bullied him, physically bullied him the whole game. Like held him down in rucks, like pushed him around and everything. I was just like, this man, I mean, obviously maybe doesn't have the World Cups to show it, but this man is like that Michael Jordan, and I took it personally, like personified. He really just gets in there, and he's the most competitive person in the world. I'm sure he doesn't let his kids win any game of gainers at home, any Monopoly, snakes and ladders, whatever. He doesn't let them win. Like, yeah, I think he's going to be great as an assistant coach. Like, he needs that head coach just to calm things down when he shouts at the backs or whatever. And they'll be like, no, guys, don't worry. Like, it's all good. But yeah, I can't wait for him to be involved in the game in the future. Okay, so I think that's all the goodbyes. That's all the teams. And look, let's look forward to the two semifinals very quickly. Let's start with New Zealand, Argentina. I mean, the last time these two teams played against each other, it was 43 points to 12 to the All Blacks. The All Blacks had a 17-0 scoreline after 12 minutes. Apart from New Zealand being just very like mentally spent or physically spent from the Ireland game, I just can't really see a way for this game to not come to the same sort of conclusion. Like, if Matera was there, maybe I'd still support Argentina. If they were willing to pull the trigger on Sanchez, maybe. But Sean, I don't know. I can't really see how Argentina gets close here.
The only way they get close is the exact same reason why they're going to lose by 50. It's like they're going to overfroth it, you know? Like, they're going to have to be so overly pumped and so ready, but then they have to execute within the laws of the game, because we all know like a crazy ruck clear out's going to happen, and then it's all going to go tits up. And that's the same thing that's going to help them win the game. You know, they've got to absolutely be off their rocker. So, yeah, interesting times ahead.
Cooks, for New Zealand, I think it's try to get a big early lead and then be able to kind of coast and manage the game until the last minute.
Yeah, I think Argentina sort of. I think what's made the All Blacks at their best is they've been ability to get to fast starts. I think you look at all the games that Argentina, man, smart. Obviously against Ireland, against France, but France is the only team that caught them out. And then you look at when they play against us at Twickenham, they got off a terrible start and they could never recover. But I think against Argentina, if Argentina don't start off well, the All Blacks can hurt them and hurt them properly. But I think the All Blacks, it's physically, I think it's going to be physically and mentally, it's going to be big come down from last week. We saw that with England, obviously last World Cup when they beat the All Blacks, and then obviously sort of to come rise again against Springboks. It's always tough. I think for Argentina, this is their World Cup final. They got nothing to lose, which is always dangerous. So I think the All Blacks, for me, it's so crucial they start off well and it's going to be he's going to take it and not sort of allow Argentina to get back in that game. And for Argentina, very simple: take the second off, put it in a bottle, and then do it for 80 minutes on Saturday, and who knows.
Okay, moving on to Springboks versus England. Obviously, that game happens on Saturday. We have a nice little entree before that, or like starter before that, with South Africa facing England, the Cricket World Cup on the same day as well. Cooks, I think you've talked about that England off the field just needs to keep things quiet. But on the field, what hopes do they have? How do they manage? How do they go about this game?
I mean, you have to say, the Springboks are definitely favourites. So I think it's for England. I think it's going to be one of those games where it's a big, to almost outball the Springboks. I think it's going to be a big kicking battle, big trench warfare. I think England's going to try going down the gutters, but also be a little slightly smarter and not obviously just try and do what they did in 2019. I think also emotionally, I think it's England will be in a different space. I think this is like it feels like they're 2019 again, but instead of playing the All Blacks, it's the Springboks, and they will have that motivation factor of the Springboks having beaten them last year. I mean, last World Cup. So I think with England, you got to play that emotion, and also I think with England, it's again trying to make sure their set piece is strong, making sure they have a good kick game. It's not going to be pretty. I think with England, I think this weekend game is not going to be pretty. I think it's going to be. I think the box counter attack is probably what something that England probably feels a lot. How clinical the box have become now, how clinical they are in counter attacks. But I do think England's biggest hope is, I think they're going to have to sort of go into a big kicking battle and try to get that ascendancy there. But I'm definitely writing England off. I'm actually a little bit. I think as the week goes, my worry levels will come, because I do think emotionally, and this is the game they'll get themselves up for a lot, and I feel like they have a free shot. I think having gotten to the semi-final now, they're not expect them to be here. So it's in the day, whether they lose or not, they won't get as much backlash. If they lose, it'll be okay. Come third, you know what? We rebuild next year. If they win, it's even more better. So I think that makes them very, very dangerous.
Yeah, look, and there's still enough world-class or formerly world-class, whatever you want to call them, players there in England that can really do a job on the Springboks. So yeah, they can't rest on their laurels, but yeah, it's the sort of game I think for both semi-finals, both England and Argentina need New Zealand and South Africa to be playing at like less than 80% at the very least, and them to have perfect games. I think the gap in class is just that wide. And they need to hope that the 6-day turnaround works against those teams and works in their favor. And yeah, maybe if Mathieu Reynal is the one refereeing, it could also help England for the game on Saturday. Just finally, Cooks, two things. The URC starts just in time with the Irish and Welsh players coming back to the teams, unfortunately. So yeah, the URC will start this weekend. Very excited about that. Yeah, look, the South African teams look strong. Their jerseys suck, but the South African teams look like they'll have a big influence on the rest of the games. Because I don't know if you've seen the South African jerseys. The Bulls one, which is written Bulls about 2,000 times.
Bulls,
disaster
Bulls
class.
No, it's not looking too great, Tyler. I was like, oh man, like I thought we get some proper rugby drip off, especially since the World Cup jerseys. A lot of them have been very, very nice. I thought rugby was upgrading its drip last up, but no, unfortunately, we got to go back from rugby World Cup into a football drip. But always excited to see the URC kick off again, best league. So yeah, I think it's very nice of Ireland and Wales sort of to go back early, make Scotland feel left out. Unfortunately, we still got obviously to deal with the World Cup, so it's basically the old Pro 14, old Pro 12 at the moment until the other remaining box come back. But yeah, very keen for the URC to kick off.
And lastly, Cooks, you need to answer some allegations. Were you playing for France last night as their midfielder? Are you Jonathan Dante?
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, Tala is I play rugby for France, and then obviously podcast on the side, so I do a bit of both. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm gutted right now. I mean, I love the game, Tala. So obviously it's obviously just I love giving back. So I'm podcasting a day after losing a World Cup quarterfinal because I just want to make sure I get my thoughts out. But. The problem is, when Dante still had the long dreadlocks, that was fine. Since then he cut his hair, I cut my hair, and I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, okay, I see it a little bit. It doesn't help. It doesn't help Jared now on Twitter put literally like a side by side picture. So now like it's not the worst person in the world to compare to. Like I wouldn't mind. We've got similar builds. He's a much better player. I mean, so I'm being compared to I look like a top 3 12 in the world, so I don't mind that.
Look, fair enough. Like, there's many people you can look like, and you've chosen to look like a world-class rugby player. Like, you're not doing too bad for yourself then. No, I've been on this for a few months. I'm glad that there's more people catching up to it. That, man, there's something here. There's something. Cooks has a secret French passport he's not telling us about.
No, I've tried to hide it. Like, I saw your allegation on Twitter. I never ever engaged back at you at all. I was like, Tyler, come on, bro. Like, we got to keep this under wraps. I'm trying to keep a job at SuperSport. They shouldn't know my side hustle is actually international rugby. Like I didn't want people to know, like, this is my side hustle. But well, the World Cup's done now, so I'll have more time. So I've been trying to fly in between continents and work at the same time has been draining.
No, Cooks, you've done a really good job, not only in the match and in the World Cup, but in this podcast as well. Let's wrap it up there. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Rugby Bits. We're going to try to also just get a lot of content out for the week as well, and just preview the big semi-final matches that are happening. And yeah, maybe if you see things here and there as well, but mostly focused on the Rugby World Cup. Yeah, please follow us on our social media channels. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and make sure that we can just stay. And yeah, Cooks, we climbed to the top of the South African rugby podcast rankings. We back up as that Idris Elba, as that Idris Elba meme always says. So, like, yeah, feels good to be at the top there.
No, it does. But also, I mean, tell us some good competition as well, guys. Some really good pods. I mean, like the Behind the Ruck one is coming, shaking things up. Now we're all fighting for top spot, and you still got the good, the bad, and the rugby, the Australian version. So to be on top of those, guys, it was very, very good. So thanks to you guys for supporting.
Yes, we'll start here and we'll move to Senegal and Madagascar and those other countries as well. But yeah, fantastic to be back on top there. And yes, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week. Or actually, sometime during this week, I'm sure. Cheers.